You never know.
Yep.
Ready?
Oh boy, here we go. They're coming out.
Just as well as I remember it. I saw a picture of it.
Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while our Deputy Mayor leads us in prayer.
Lord, we thank you for the wonderful things that you do for us, and we are grateful for the wonderful things that we do for each other. Please give us patience, wisdom, and endurance as we discuss items of city business this evening. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Frank. This to advise the meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted under the Open Public Meetings Act. We did have an executive session prior to the open portion of the meeting. And at this time, I'd ask our solicitor to comment on the topics that were discussed in executive session.
In executive session, the mayor and council discussed one matter of personnel. Specifically, they discussed an appointment to the Cultural Arts Commission. Additional information will be made available to the public later this evening in this meeting when council considers an appointment to that commission. Additionally, council discussed certain matters relating to contracts. Specifically, council discussed contract terms to be included in a request for proposals dealing with the solicitation of operators for the golf course. Additional information will be made available to the public in that matter later this evening when council considers resolution 2014-124.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to approve the executive session minutes of 6/21/2014. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palella?
Yes.
Kern?
Abstain.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next, we have the approval of the requisition list, operating expenses, and payroll. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved. Or second, then.
Any discussion?
I have a comment, and, well, on the Jolly Roger, I have to abstain, the check going to the Jolly Roger. Also, there's Marine Lumber and Piling Company. It has a do not exceed of $2,613, and we're paying them $2,815. Jennifer?
I can, if you give me the check number, I can go pull the PO for us.
1412.
Why don't we, we'll table the requisition list and operating expenses until after the manager finds the additional information. We'll move on with the meeting, and then we can do it at a later time.
Yeah, would you like me to pull it now, or would you wait?
No,
till
we'll wait.
after the
We have
meeting?
other items that we need to go through.
Okay.
And the first and very important is the swearing in of our new fire chief, Alan Widener. And like to invite Alan and his wife Denise and their family to come forward so that we can swear Chief Widener in. Also joining us in the audience this evening, we have our Assemblyman Chris Brown, who's going to give us a legislative update. And I know I saw former Fire Chief Stan Kuglinski. Alan, I'm not sure if any other chiefs from any other towns are here, as well as a number of our retired firefighters, and it's great to see all of you back supporting our new chief, Alan Widener. And this time I'm going to administer the oath. say a few words?
Promise to do the best I can and always stand up for everybody, so we'll bring this forward and inviting everybody, all my friends, or whoever wants to, back at the Elks, 7 o'clock for some cocktails, so. Have a good one. Thank you very much.
Best speech ever.
Yes, you'll have to.
Yeah.
We have to sign this for Lynn, and we'll make it official.
And we have to be out of here by 7 p.m.
Thank you, Al. At this time, I'd like to ask our Assemblyman Chris Brown to come forward. He has some legislative updates for us, and everything that Assemblyman Brown has been dealing with is very important, obviously, but recently there are probably two issues that are going to have a tremendous impact on our region and will have an impact on the residents of Brigantine. And he's going to give us an update on what he has been doing working with those particular issues. Chris?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. Of course, congratulate the chief, and that was a great speech. You get all these long-winded politicians, and that was perfect. Well, as everybody is aware,
You can face it, that's fine, yeah.
I listen to you enough.
as everyone is aware, there's been some talk about casino gaming in the Meadowlands and up north. And it's my position, and the studies support it, that that will cause a lot of harm. And we're talking about 27,000 employees. We're talking about our property values going down while our property taxes go up. So what I've done is we're calling upon my colleagues in the legislature and each municipality, to include Brigantine, to review the materials that I sent to you and have a debate amongst yourselves. And if you agree that the resolution that I sent makes sense, then I would ask them to adopt it. And we're going to try to fight this thing as hard as we can. I don't believe you're ever out of the fight, and I don't believe anything is a foregone conclusion. And it's facts and reality that we can present to our colleagues that will demonstrate to them it is not in the best interest, not just of this region, but of the state. And it would be too long of a story to try to go through all the facts right now, and you have a lot to cover. But that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with your governing body with, and I'll be back to discuss it again with them. There's another thing which is called your energy tax receipts. And that's another resolution that I had sent. You know, as an elected official, I represent all of you. I could hide under a rock and stay home, but I think it's important that I come out and I meet with you, I listen to your concerns, and I explain to you what I'm trying to do. And the energy tax receipts means from the energy companies within your town, they pay property tax. But the state collects that money, and then the state keeps that money. And they then put a 2% cap on your municipality. We're talking about $675, and I just want to make sure I get it right, $657,000 that is rightfully, in my eyes, the municipality of Brigantine's money. That's your properties that are being taxed, and that money should come back here, and it should go directly towards property tax relief. And so that is another area that I'm working on, so that you know we're not just throwing up our hands and saying, well, there's nothing you can do. We're trying to think of ways to be creative, to make sure that we do everything we can so you keep your money in your pockets. And if money that belongs here in this municipality is going up to the state, then they make sure they get it back to you where it belongs. So I see so many, you got a lot to cover tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I really want to thank the governing body. And of course, I don't know if this is appropriate. I was going to see if anybody could. That might not be a good idea.
You're going to say what?
I was going to see if anybody had questions, but
Oh.
I'll be here all night. I'll be happy. I'll wait outside. Anybody has a question, I'll stay as long as you want, but I don't want to hold up the meeting any more than I did. So I thank you very much.
Chris.
I wanna-
Chris, you can stay to after the meeting and talk to people.
Chris, I want to, I want to thank you, for your efforts, and, this has, especially with the proposed closing of the casinos, the Showboat, possibly the Revel and Trump Plaza. I know that you and Chairman Formica have been working along with our county executive, and I asked for some data to find out how that's going to impact on families in Brigantine. I just received it today, but we're also meeting, and you have called for a meeting of the Atlantic County Mayors Association, because each community is impacted in a different way. For Brigantine, it means almost 200 employees are facing the possibility of losing their jobs. And that's 200 families that will be, impacted by the closing of those three casinos, proposed closing. So we're going to be working closely with you, and I appreciate your efforts of putting that together. And I know in speaking to the other mayors, they want to come together and see whatever can be done. Just received the resolution today, so it's good timing, and we'll get this out to the rest of council, and I'm sure there'll be unanimous support moving forward.
I thank you, and I thank everybody, and I thank all of you. You have a great night.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris. The other thing that we have before we get into the business portion of our meeting is we have a number of volunteers who worked throughout the year, and this has been an extremely busy time for the contractors on the island. Still working with a number of families that are recovering from Sandy, but they did take time out of their busy schedules, and they volunteered to help restore our lighthouse. The lighthouse suffered a lot of damage during Sandy. We had, shingles blown off. We had the damage to the upstairs deck. There was water damage. So we wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. And I know we had tried to put it out to bid, and I know Public Works, John Doring and Ed Stinson looked at trying to put this thing together in a bid package, and the contractor stepped up and said, instead of putting this thing out to bid, why don't we just volunteer our time and get the job done for you? Because it was very hard to quantify what you need to fix on a 1925 lighthouse. So that was something that they did. And we want to recognize them, and and we all drive by the lighthouse every day, and you see the great job that they did restoring it. It really looks beautiful at this point. It is the entrance to our island, and I think it sets a very good tone that Brigantine is recovering, that we're coming back, and that we're Brig strong, and we're sending that message by restoring those things that are important to our community. So we want to recognize those individuals who volunteered their time, and hopefully they're here this evening. And this is not the first time the lighthouse has been done by volunteers. It's been done several times. So this group has stepped up to really help out. So I want to recognize them right now. Coast Custom Builders. Is Coast with us? That was a meeting. Jersey Pro. Boardwalk Construction, Frank here?
Mayor, I spoke with Frank today. He sends his regrets. He's in Washington working on a project and was not able to make it.
Frank and Boardwalk did that beautiful red roof. You see on the lighthouse with those dimensional shingles. Mace Enterprises. Mace. This is Mace's second
Mayor, we spoke with Todd, and he was not able to make tonight either.
Okay, great. I appreciate that, Ed. And once again, I want to thank John Doring and Ed Stinson for coordinating all this work. Did a wonderful job. And I know there were probably others who were involved in this project. Dave Hughes, who works with Mace, I know was very involved. And once again, for the work of some great volunteers that put this thing back together. An icon that is certainly coming into our island, a beautiful symbol. And we're very proud of the work he did. Thank you very much. And we have some true craftsmen and generous individuals. Can we get everybody back up for a group picture? Sure. We have the lighthouse restoration. And at this point, we can take a 5-minute recess. I know not everyone wants to stay for all of the business meeting, and you're just being polite.
a motion to resume the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we move now to 9A, discussion regarding procedures for public portion. Apparently there's been a proposal by Councilman DeLucre to find a way to streamline and condense the public comment portion. Rick, I don't know if you want to explain your proposal?
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Now, all the members of council, I believe, received from Jennifer a copy of what I was proposing, what I am proposing. And I'll explain it briefly for the people in the audience. My purpose here is, as Phil said, to streamline and I think improve the way we've been handling the public session, meaning both the initial public session, which addresses agenda items, and then the general public session later in the meeting. And the general parameters of what I'm proposing, and when I'm done, and after whatever discussion there may be amongst council members, I would ask for a motion to introduce and implement these procedures beginning tonight. First, in the agenda comment portion, currently we allow people to come up and speak for up to 5 minutes on any subject which is on the agenda. Tonight's agenda is fairly long. We probably have 15 to 20 items. Other nights, not so much. Typically what has happened has been that comments might be made on a number of topics. And a lot of the comments, I think, get lost, and then there's follow-up colloquy between members of the council and members of the public and members of council and each other. And it's been my perception that in the course of doing that, we are a lot of times losing the thread of what the person's comments were, and a lot of times not addressing what their comments were. My proposal for that portion of the meeting is that we would go in sequence through each of the agenda items. So, for example, our first agenda item tonight is number 11. That would be introduced for public comment. Any members of the public who want to do comment on that specific agenda item would have up to 2 minutes to say whatever it is they want to say. If they wanted to ask questions of council, if they wanted to direct whatever comments they choose to council, they would have 2 minutes to do that. Council would not respond during that person's presentation. There wouldn't be back and forth. Even if someone poses a direct question, council would abide their time and wait until not just the conclusion of that person's comments, but until the conclusion of all comments directed to that agenda item. I think the benefit of that is that we as a body will then know, this is the universe of comments that have been made on this particular subject that we can choose to address or not address directly. And I would propose that when all the comments are received on any given agenda item, that whatever members of council wish to comment on it or respond in whatever fashion would have up to 1 minute to do that. Now, the reason why I would have a shorter time frame for council members is that, as a matter of practice, we have the ability, and exercise it relentlessly, to comment and debate and discuss when we are at the point of voting on any given agenda item. So council doesn't get shortchanged by only having a minute to respond to the public comments, but the public, I think, has the opportunity individually, without interruption by anybody, to say what it is that they want to say, and then collectively to identify all of the comments, the thoughts, the suggestions that may apply to a given agenda item, so that the council members can have, we would hope, a little more focused and intelligent response within that first 1 minute window. And then again, when it comes up on the agenda, we can have the same level of discussion that we've always had. That's how I would propose that we address the first public portion. I don't propose any changes to the council manager comments portion of our meeting, which, again, in practice, we have a certain number of identified items that we know are going to be public discussion items, and council members have always been free, and I think it's worked reasonably well, to comment on whatever other issues may be on their minds or of interest to them at that same time. Then we have the second public portion. Right now we have up to 5 minutes for people to address whatever they may want to address. I would say let's keep the 5 minutes, but again, while the person is speaking on whatever subject or subjects they want to speak, No interruptions from any council members, no interruptions from any member of the public. Let the people say what it is they need to say and work their way through it. You know, council members are perfectly capable, I think, of taking notes. Again, people want to ask questions, or if there's some information they want to get back from council, you know, that can happen, but after the person's done their comments. And then again, I would say council members would have 1 minute to respond if they want to. And that would be it, by the way, just one response at that point, not an unending cycle of comment here, response here, rejoinder there. 1 minute. If we can't say what it is we need to say in response to a comment from a member of the public in that 1 minute time, then perhaps it's a subject that we need to not say anything about until we're a little better prepared to address it. And in practice, too, I think you would have to agree, most of the items which come up during the general public portion involve either an opinion of a person from the public about whatever issue or issues, or a new issue, one which hasn't been presented to the council. Clearly, it's not, typically, not on the agenda, and it's something where in most cases, we're not going to have much information about it, and I don't think it benefits the public or us to be floundering around trying to figure out on the fly what it is that might be, what the facts might be around a certain situation that's just come to our attention. In most cases, the right answer is that the manager will reach out to whoever, you know, in the hierarchy of the city is the appropriate person or persons to address it, and most times that's what happens. So, in sum, what I'm proposing is that we restructure our public portion and council input to have agenda items handled in sequence. All persons who want to comment do so in sequence, up to 2 minutes for each person. No comment back from council at that point. No engaging questions and answers. Even if a question is directed to me or whomever specifically, that's not the time we'll address it. When all the comments on the agenda item are done, council members could have up to a minute to address whatever portion of it they want to. On the public portion later, 5 minutes. Again, no interruptions to members of the public. And at the end of each individual speaker's comments, then council will have a minute to respond. Each of us would have a minute to respond as we see fit. That is my proposal.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate your efforts to streamline the public comment. I have to tell you that I think it's way too complicated. You know, given a rough count of tonight's agenda, there would be approximately 18 times we would have public comment during the meeting. I think that would not streamline things. I think it would prolong things in a way in which we would probably not be as productive as perhaps we should be. I think obviously if everyone conducts themselves in a business-like manner and tries to tailor their comments toward the issue that they've identified as an agenda item, we can move through our agenda in a very efficient way. And according to our city code, the receipt of general public comment at formal and workshop meetings of council shall be at a time and in a place on the agenda where determined by the presiding officer. That would be the person who is running the meeting. That would be me, as the mayor running this particular meeting. The public should be heard at the consideration of each ordinance, and that is a requirement, except that the presiding officer may direct that comments be limited by subject matter on time and in the interest of order. The presiding officer may direct that public speakers shall deliver their comments to the council from a place designated within the council chamber, and direct comments or questions only to the chair or to the members of council or to the manager at the pleasure of the presiding officer. So already in our code, we have standards for public comment. I don't think we need to complicate it by going into what's a 2-minute comment and what's a 1-minute rebuttal. And we have a hard enough time keeping track of the 5 minutes during the public comment period. I've been doing this a long time. Some would say too long, but the essence of what I've seen work in the past is that when everyone operates in a very business-like manner, comments can be heard, but also the second public comment portion was put in this year at the request of council And sometimes that gets a little complicated because just about anything can be discussed if it's on the agenda or loosely associated to something on the agenda. So I think we need to make sure that when comments are made in the first public portion, that you make them on an agenda item and have some specific issue with that item. And then when we move into the general public comment, that is when you can discuss anything. And obviously during the public hearing of an ordinance, it is operated as a public hearing. So there's plenty of time to do this. I don't think we need to complicate it with a lot of rules that we're going to have to try and enforce as we work through this, and they become burdensome. Even the 5-minute rule becomes a little bit hard to work with over time.
But part of the problem, though, the way I look at it, unless we put some type of a time limit on it, it gets out of hand, and it has from the back and forth. It's almost impossible to keep track. So if someone can speak uninterrupted, and if there's a decent amount of time, because a minute is a good amount of time to say something, if you're just, speaking just to that issue, things could move on, because we've gotten so bogged down for so long, where meetings, a couple of times have gone all the way up to midnight, and a lot of it is because of the back and forth, which doesn't seem to move forward. It just gets stuck in one place like a record.
Well, once again, public is here for answers. They may have a question about a particular resolution. I think many times you can answer things quickly and move forward. But I think the dialogue is useful most of the time. And I have to be honest with you, I've been asked many times, and so have all of you, someone's come up with a series of questions that they ask us. But my reading of our code is that the public portion is determined by the presiding officer.
Well, may I respond to some of that, Phil? My perception differs quite dramatically from yours in terms of the value of the actual back and forth that we've experienced over these past many months. I've had many comments have been made at these meetings time and again from people saying, I didn't come here to listen to council people argue with each other or argue with the public. That's how it comes across, and that's how it's often perceived. And I would say objectively, if one wants to go back and view online, because you can, our meetings, you will see that the value of a lot of these exchanges is more apparent than real. There is not in my perception, a great deal of value in that. And I think the problem is not with the public. What happens to the public time and again is that people come up and they have things they want to say. They may get to a point where they stop to pose a question or to wait for a response, but more often than that, I think they get to the point where they get interrupted, or someone else jumps in, or someone takes the conversation in a different way, and then the member of the public is standing there while we argue amongst ourselves, or while we make our speeches, or whatever it is we do, and poor Lynn has no way to track how much time the person from the public really is entitled to, how much time remains from their 5 minutes, because fairly, and I think rightly, she does not want to assess against the member of the public the time that's spent in this dialogue and colloquy with council. We as council people have plenty of opportunities to say whatever we want to say. As I mentioned, on each individual item of business, we have council comment that precedes every vote. The public is heard only really 3 times. Because for the first time we did it this year, people can be heard on agenda items before we act, and that's important, and that has value. People have always been allowed to be heard on a public hearing on an ordinance by statute, and we've always had a public portion. So the problem that I'm perceiving is not with the public. I don't care or worry about the fact that people may from time to time come up and say things that I might find offensive or pose questions that are antagonistic. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, they're free to do that. The important thing is we as council end up prolonging the meetings and creating an impression that I think is not a fair impression, certainly not the impression we ought to be creating, that we are arguing with and battling with members of the public and each other. If we have valid points to make, pro and con, the merits of anything on our agenda, we have the opportunity to do that. And we do that. And we do it, and we do it each time the matters come up. And finally, in terms of how we run our meetings, our code also says that the council determines its own rules of procedure, and we've always done that. We determined that there ought to be, again, I think a good decision, there ought to be a second portion of public comment for agenda items. We did that. Council can determine the duration of the set duration with which people can initially speak and in which we can respond. That's within the prerogative of council as a body. The mayor can certainly place public comment wherever on the agenda you want to place it. I would think you'd agree that where we have it now makes the most sense. Obviously, agenda comments really need to precede the agenda, and general public comments ought to come later because we do have business we got to get through.
Well, I think if everyone just kept in mind, if they kept their comments as succinct as possible, and we operate under the rules that we have presently in place, we will be fine. I don't see where having 18 public portions makes any sense, and it's only going to make this meeting longer than it has to be. And I think when you get past a certain time in these meetings, that's when perhaps tempers and things get a little bit on edge, and we're not as productive as we should be.
But I don't understand why you say that we're going to have 18 public portions.
Because you're going to comment on every item specifically.
Right. But you've used the technique before. You say does anyone have a comment on the first agenda? Does anybody have a comment on the second agenda
Well,
item?
what I say right now is,
Through.
what I say right now is, does anyone want to comment on any agenda items? And typically, we get one, maybe two people who have a comment on an agenda item, then they sit down. Then we go through our agenda, and then the other part of the public comment, which is the open public comment, which is the 5-minute limit, which if someone asks me a question, I'm going to respond to a question that they ask. And there is dialogue. And the way our code works, the questions should go through the chair of the meeting. We have to have some order here. We don't want to have, they can ask a specific council person a question. That should go through the chair, and that question goes to Councilman DeLucre, that's fine. That question goes to Councilman Palella, that's fine. But we have to have some rules to operate under. What I'm hearing is we want to have 7 answers to every question that's asked.
Phil, if I may, you're kind of setting up a straw man here. You point to the 18 agenda items. Let's look at what our experience has been. We have different meetings, we have different length agendas. We may have 5 items, we may have 15 or 20. And as you just said, what typically happens is there's relatively few comments. That's not going to change because you address them in a different sequence. It'll take you maybe a couple more minutes to go through, but if there are only so many people that want to make comments collectively on the agenda items, they're the people who are going to speak, and they'll speak in the same way and to the same duration that they would have otherwise under the existing system.
We don't have a problem with that right now.
Well, but hold on, Phil,
you got a
but-
solution
Well,
that's
I
you
think
got a
we-
Byzantine set of rules that we don't
All right,
need.
Phil,
I think
Byzantine,
we do.
it's not Byzantine. It's very straightforward. This is the kind of thing, let me give you an example. I was at a planning board hearing a couple weeks ago, and the way they did it, and the way actually a lot of boards do it, is as each witness presents whatever testimony they have, they finish their testimony, the board members have the opportunity to question that witness, and then members of the public actually got to question that witness too about their testimony. Now, that seems cumbersome. You might want to call it Byzantine, but in fact, it works very well.
Well, the planning board is very different. People are
No.
sworn in, they're under oath. This
but
is
no.
a public meeting.
Phil, that's not a difference. That's a distinction without a difference. The reality is that we're trying to have clarity. I want to have clarity, and I'll speak for myself as a member of council. I want to have clarity so that on a given issue, whether it's, pick any item on our agenda, item 12, municipal consent for South Jersey Gas to use our streets. Odds are pretty good there won't be any comments on that from the public. But if there were, I want to hear them and hear them together and digest them. So then I know, okay, this is the universe of information about that. I would much prefer that to having, which we have now. And again, more theoretical than anything else because our experience has been that not many people comment, and those that do comment don't comment on so many items. But if you're worried because we have 18 items and maybe 10 different people are going to get up and address 6 different items, well, that to me is a problem. That is where we run into difficulty because I got to keep track, okay, that person said this about South Jersey Gas and this about the engineering contract and something else. That is not beneficial. And the worst part of it, and I'll say again, it's not the public, it's us. The worst part of it is the back and the forth and somebody has an opinion, and rather than responding to a question or an opinion, sometimes the comments are really more in the nature of, I'll give you my opinion instead. Well, that's not what we need there. We need to hear from the public, get their information, their facts, their opinions, their take on things, get it together in a nice cogent piece for each item of business we're going to have to act on, and then we deal with that when we get to vote on that item.
Rick,
If they
I
said
think you're making this way too complicated.
Phil, let me just ask you this. Would you look at the, and again, view them online if you haven't, would you look at the way our meetings have played out over the past 6 or 7 months and say, this is working well, this is smooth, this is productive, we're hearing from the public what they want to tell us, and we're responding when we need to respond, and we're not responding where that's not necessary? You know what? I've been at all those meetings except for one. No way on God's earth could you say that.
Rick, I think that every council member ought to be a little bit reflective in their thinking and perhaps find a way to make things a little more efficient. And if in fact we can be succinct in our comments, then we can move these issues forward. But having 18 different times where I ask the public, someone has to get out of their seat, come to the microphone, identify themselves on every issue, seems to me like, I don't know a public body that does it that way. I don't know whether Fred has public comment in any of his other towns on every resolution on every item on the agenda.
No.
I've
not seen that particular.
I've seen public bodies. I know school boards do this. They do a beginning and they do an end. So I don't know of any public body that has a comment on every separate resolution as you go through the agenda.
Well, would an alternative be, and a compromise here, we go through the agenda items, not restrict people to one agenda item, have people have their say, let them say it,
We don't restrict them
no,
now.
wait, no.
But to
let me
be honest
finish.
with you, we probably spent a half hour on something that is not an issue.
No, but
You know,
can I
it's-
finish, please? I'd like, the person finishes, and as council members, we have a minute to address them. The only difference is that we're gonna have to take notes and wait until the end to address the issues. I don't see a problem with that. It's a little more work for us. But it puts a time limit on us so that we just don't go off into the wild blue yonder like we do. And then we get these exchanges back and forth that basically just waste time.
Well, I think this is a waste of time. You know, we can order the scoreboard to put it in the back of the council chamber, and we can have a timer here, you know, trying to figure out when the buzzer goes off for all these different rules.
Well,
I mean, we're making this way too difficult. We should be going through our agenda, we should be hearing from the public at the appropriate times, and let's move forward. You know, this is a set of rules looking, if we all just were able to condense our comments, we could get probably a lot more done.
Well, this forces us to condense our comments. That's what's good about it.
And
I think that there's a plus here in two ways. One is that we would be limiting public comment on an agenda item to 2 uninterrupted minutes. And as you can see from the back and forth here, there have been interruptions. So I think that any member of the public can contemplate and address their items in 2 minutes. And I think that we ought to be able to respond in 1 minute. Now, whether or not you have 17 separate times is another issue, but I think that we should agree that letting the public have uninterrupted time, whether they ask a question or not, and then the council person that may want to respond can respond for up to a minute in an uninterrupted fashion would make things much more smooth for this body and more intelligible for the public at home.
Well, Frank, I disagree with you. If someone comes up and does their 2 minutes, you respond for 1 minute, do they get another 2 minutes?
No.
I mean, we go through this right now with the
No.
5 minutes. This is, it's a ridiculous set of rules that you don't need.
But
You know,
it
what
do-
we need are less rules Let's go through the meeting act in a civil manner. Let's not go off on long tangents that, quite frankly, by the time some people are done speaking, nobody knows what they said. And we need to move the meeting forward. This is, something that quite frankly, I'm amazed that we would come up with this set of rules and try and operate by them, because I guarantee you the first time we're going to go through it, there's going to be a problem with someone, wait a minute, you took part of my 2 minutes, I talk for 2 minutes, now I respond, who goes first?
Not if it's uninterrupted. That's the
Yeah,
whole,
well,
that's the whole benefit
thing,
here.
Frank, is if somebody's gonna ask me a question, like Mr. Conti out there, he's gonna ask me a question, he wants a response from me.
Write it down and respond when he's finished. If he says that he's finished talking and that his
Well,
2
you get
minutes...
5 minutes to talk about anything on the agenda items. And he says, Mr. Simpson, how about this? And many a times he asked me a question, I gave him a response, and we move on. I don't think we're making a big deal out. This costs more time than I'll never get back in my life. This is crazy. Let's move on. Either we want to vote for it now. You guys got the votes. Do it. Let's do it. Let's move on then.
Well, Fred,
This
I
is
would...
discussion, Andy.
Discussion. Well, it should have been manager discussion. We should have been in our agenda items right now, where the people are sitting out there looking at 7 dwarfs up here going crazy. I mean, this is crazy. This is stupid.
Your characterization, Andy.
Yeah.
What Councilman Picardi suggested, if the concern is that there would be 18 separate times when people would be called forward, keep the current 5-minute limit. People can talk about any agenda item within a 5-minute limit. When all people are done commenting on agenda items, council people would have a minute to respond to whichever of those comments they wanted to respond. That, Andy, would address your concern about being asked a question by Mr. Conti. And during the general portion, the council would still have the opportunity immediately after a speaker had spoken to address whatever that person said. So,
Once again, I'm not sure, and I'm doing this every 2 weeks. I'm not sure exactly what you said there, Rick. What is different about that than what we have right now? Someone comes up, wants to speak I make an announcement. Anybody want to speak on any of the agenda items?
You got 5 minutes.
You come up, you take the microphone, you identify yourself. You have 5 minutes to speak about that or several agenda items. And I can write down what one person said and keep that clear in my head. And if they ask me a question like, what does that mean? That's why they're at the microphone. So because they want clarification. So I will, if I don't know the answer, I'll turn to the manager, I'll turn to the solicitor. We give them the information. They can then understand what we're doing when we get to the vote. I don't see why we need all of these rules to do that. Maybe what we need to do, and I say all of us, maybe we all need to think about talking less and hearing more from the public and moving the agenda along.
and because you were confused, Bill, let me see if I can clarify for you. What I am proposing, you're right, does not differ with respect to the total 5 minutes to comment on agenda items. What is different? People will not be interrupted. And what is different is that council will respond at the end, and council will be limited in the time it can respond.
And not interrupt.
That is what differs.
But also, by our own rules, all questions, they have to go through the chair. We can't just have chaos here. Someone wants to ask a question to a council person, it normally goes through the chair, and I say, Councilman Curran, you want to address that? Councilman DeLu, you have to have procedures for running a meeting, and they're outlined in our code. So it's worked for 20 years or longer. It's worked with different councils. What's changed, is the time in the debate, and we need to keep that in mind. We need to keep in mind that we have to have some goals to achieve at each council meeting, and we need to keep a time frame in our minds in order to get to that place. But to be honest with you, we've been on this for over a half hour, and I think people in the meeting want to go through the agenda.
May I interrupt for 1 second? I think what he's trying to achieve here is that we discuss in the first portion one topic at a time, instead of jumping back and forth from topic to topic to topic. for instance, there's 18 items. We'd be going back and forth.
So
This would
your
be
proposal
one
is
subject.
every time we go, like, for instance, we go to, well, the ordinance is an introduction, but you can speak on that now. So ordinance number 10, anybody want to speak on ordinance number 10? We do that one. Okay, then we go, you'll have 18 separate public comments.
But not, you're not going to have public comment on every single item.
Yeah, you are.
You possibly can.
Right now, you can comment on anything that's on the agenda.
But not everybody's going to have comments for each item on the agenda in the
You
audience.
possibly could.
But,
If I may,
but what it
So
stops.
that's 18 times someone's going to have to get out of their chair.
No,
Right.
not
Come to
if
the
we,
microphone
not
and
if we do,
identify
not
themselves.
if we do what I
Sit down and come back
suggested. And the other thing, what it stops is the back and forth between council, because sometimes it almost turns into a debate between
That's what I'm
the
here
public and the council, but it doesn't move anything forward. It's just back and forth
Well,
and back and
this
forth.
isn't going to move anything forward, and if it turns into a debate, as long as it's civil, isn't that why we're here?
no, Phil, it's not.
It
It's
is.
not to be a
during this-
debate.
Not during this part.
You
of
might,
it,
do you not watch any of our meetings?
Oh, come on.
What
Rick, I
happens,
sat through him the first time, I don't want to see him the second time.
what happens,
It's a
and the
scary
people
movie.
in this audience and the people who watch at home have seen it and have told all of us, I'm sure, more than once, that the part of the meeting, the aspect of the meetings that they do not like is that there is back and forth debate which is off the point, which undercuts the public's right to be heard and make their points. Part of that is that the people are interrupted at different times for different reasons in different ways. And part of it is that everything is treated as a springboard to open-ended debate amongst council people, dragging in members of the public, occasionally people from their chairs yelling out. What I'm suggesting does not undercut, and in fact enhances, the ability of the public to make the points they need and want to make. They will not be interrupted, is key number one. Key number two, our responses will be limited in time. If we can't say what we need to say in that 1 minute time, then we maybe need to take a step back and revisit the issue at a future meeting because we don't have the information they need.
I think it's way too complicated, it's unnecessary, and, you know, I think what it's going to do is, it's really going to wind up, you know, thwarting the public's right to say what they need to say or get clarification on an issue. So I don't agree with it. Fred, I'm reading the code that I have the right to say when the public comment is. I don't know if council has a right to overrule that, but if they do, let us know and we'll move forward.
Mayor, I believe that council has the right to establish procedures. However, once they are established, they are administered and managed by the mayor. The mayor runs the meeting based upon procedures that the council puts in place. So,
Okay, let's move on then.
So if the majority of council, and please, you're going to have to give me a card on how this works, because if this is what you want to do, I'm going to have to figure it out, and I would also ask that we have some light system in here so I know when someone's at a minute, when they're at 2 minutes, when we're at 5 minutes. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I think it's going to only hurt the public in the long run. But that's my opinion. If you want to cut off public debate, that's up to you if you want to vote that way.
All right. And my final word on that. Cut off public debate, Phil, it's the exact opposite, and you know it. The public has been shouted down and browbeaten way too many times by the tenor and the nature of the discussion, if you want to call it that happens when they're trying to make comments. What I am going to propose, and I'll put it in the form of a motion right now, unless there's further comment, is that we do change our procedures. We change them that we'll keep the 5 minutes up front for comment on agenda items for each individual. It must be an uninterrupted 5 minutes. We will keep the 5 minutes for public comment later in the meeting. It must be uninterrupted. Council will respond only at the conclusion of all comments by all people on agenda items, and council will have, each member council will have up to a minute to respond. Council, likewise, may respond up to 1 minute at the conclusion of each individual speaker's comments during the regular public portion.
Are you proposing that on every speaker that every member of council is going to respond for a minute?
No, I'm proposing you have the option of responding, and if you do, you have up to a minute.
Well, I think it's a ridiculous set of rules. Be honest with you, I'd like to hear from the public on this before we vote on it. What's the public think about a set of rules like this? I can have public comment. I'm the presiding officer. So, yes, Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. I think this proposal is ridiculous. This meeting tonight is our meeting. It's not your meeting. And as far as trying to save time, you all are getting paid over $400 to sit at this meeting tonight. That's your salary. So you're here to sit and listen to the public at our meeting. This isn't your meeting. And we should be able to speak at the beginning of the meeting on the items that this council as a body is going to vote on and affect Brigantine and its residents. That's why we have the public comment in the beginning of the meeting. I'm the one that had this done. I'm the one that made this happen. And I question why, and I don't normally do this, because I'm an independent voter. I question why there's advertisements in the Brigantine newspaper with the Democratic Party boasting that they're the ones that got public comment in the beginning of the meetings, and now there's members of the Democratic Party trying to trifle us. The definition of democracy is being able to challenge your government. That's what democracy is. That's what the Constitution is all about. Don't tread on me.
John, before you leave, I think a point that needs clarification. John, the proposal is not to eliminate, it's to keep exactly as it is now, the 5 minutes that you are allotted to comment on agenda items.
Okay, anyone else want to speak on the proposed changes to the public comment? Yes, sir. If you would, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Frank Conjemi. This is my first meeting here. We just moved here a couple of years ago. On his proposal, the way I feel about it, you wasted over a half hour just talking about nothing. Have everybody put it in writing, hand it to you before the meeting. You just look at it, and each one, go over it and see what the people think. That's my answer.
Thank you, Frank. Any other public comment? Yes, Sandy.
Sandra Williams, 105 10th Street North. I just wanted to address council and say that over the past few months, I can't believe how disrespectful some of these members have been to other members and the mayor. I think in past years, people have had differences of opinion, but they've always talked to each other with respect. And it's just been an embarrassment to our town. I also wanted to say that I feel like this is something that should be brought up in executive session and not here for the public. And I question the reason that it's brought up now instead of the hour before when you guys had time to talk to each other without an audience.
Well, it wouldn't have been an exception to the Open Public Meetings Act, so we couldn't have done it in executive session. So it would have to be talked about here.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Livesey.
John Livesey, 203 9th Street North. I guess my only comment on this is going to be that the discussion went on for well over 15 minutes. And I think there should be something in the process that you should be able to table this and allow somehow for discussion to be done at another time. Because when I first heard the proposal, there was some merit, but it did get confusing. And I really think it should be tabled and maybe, at another time looked at, and also looked at the code to make sure that it is in line with the code that we already have, and not just change things on a whim. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, Fred.
My name is Fred Tochterman. I live at 1214 East Shore Drive here in Brigantine. I've been a part-time resident for 16 years and a full-time resident going on 10 years. I've been to a good dozen or more of the meetings in the last few years, And I think what we've had in place currently works very well. I know if I had 2 or 3 questions regarding the agenda, I would like to do it up front before those agenda items were being addressed. I'd like to address council that way we have in the past. I think it's worked very well in the past, and I think we continue to do so in the future. I don't like the idea of breaking it down and having to sit through an entire meeting if you have a comment on something that's the 17th thing on the agenda. If it's the first thing on the agenda, fine. If it's at the end of the agenda and I have other things to do, I want to get it done up front, let you know what I think about it, even though I can't attend the whole meeting. So I'd like to leave that thought with council.
Thank you, Fred. Yes, Tom?
Tom Cooker, 13 Beach Cove. I think for the last 30, close to 45 minutes, I don't know if there's a person really in the room that really understood any of that. So that was totally confusing. I think it all should go through the main source, the mayor, and then if you guys want to write something between you ahead of time and go over it, rather than wasting our time here, that'd be more professional.
Thank you, Tom. Any other public comment? No, seeing none, I'm going to close the first public portion. And-
Public comment on 9A. That was the public comment on 9A,
9A,
right?
yes.
There's a motion pending, waiting for a second.
I'm sorry?
I had presented that as a
Can
motion.
we
before
clarify
opened
what
it
the
to
motion is?
Yes.
Because I don't know if anybody understood what you're talking about, Rick.
Yeah, I've heard that, Phil. The motion is,
And I also have to ask, how did this item get on the agenda?
I reached out to Jennifer, I sent her an email, which she forwarded to you.
Right. So,
That's how items get on the agenda. We reach out to the manager if we have something we want on the agenda. That's how it's supposed to happen.
I understand that, but what, you know, the timing of this too, I mean, not everybody has had a chance to even understand what the proposal is.
Well, can't have it both ways, I guess. And then we hear that it's taken way too long to discuss it. Well, the explanation was given. The motion is that we will still have 2 public portions, the first of which will still be 5 minutes, and will still allow people to speak on any agenda item they want. They will not be interrupted when that happens. The second public portion, the general public portion, again, lets them speak on any subject they want without interruption. As far as council is concerned, at the end of all public agenda-related comments, we can each speak for up to a minute, if we want to, about any or all of the comments. At the end of each speaker's comments in the general comment portion, if we wish to comment, again, you don't have to, but if you do, you have a minute to do that. Without interruption is central to all of it. The public should not be interrupted at any time while they're at the microphone addressing council.
So if someone wants a clarification, they will have to make their statement, then sit down. Once you sit down, you're not coming back, all right? Because you have a 5-minute limit. So we're not doing the back and forth. We're not doing any of that. And that's the way that it'll have to operate. So if you have a question, you're not going to get it clarified, and you're not going to be able to ask a follow-up to clarify it because that's the structure. So I think, not that I think people should be getting up and down and we should have a dialogue, but I think you're losing the essence of what conversation is about. You ask a question, you get some clarification. It might help, it might not. You might say, I don't understand that, and I'd like more clarification, but you're going to lose that interaction. You're going to get a statement, and that's it. So if you're giving up your right for clarification and interaction with your governing body, that's what you're getting, that's what's being voted on right now.
I think the problem is limiting that, because sometimes that gets out of control. Once the
Understand.
5 minutes is up, we have to limit that interaction, because sometimes it goes on for 15, 20 minutes.
Right, but once again, someone's going to make a statement. They're going to sit down, and now, if they don't use all of their 5 minutes, do they get a chance to come back? Because they may only made a 3-minute statement, and then they sit down, they say, well, I got 2 minutes in the bank. So do I come back, or how does that work?
You want to talk about a complicated system, that's what we've been doing and not doing well because it's impossible to do well. People will make a statement, they'll get interrupted, we'll lose track of how much time they have. Some people end up speaking for 2 minutes when maybe they had 4 minutes to say, and other people may end up standing there for 20 minutes and engage in extended colloquy with counsel that runs well past the 5 minutes.
Well, I don't look at it as an interruption. I look at it as somebody asked me a question, they need clarification. I'll answer the question to the best of my ability. If I don't know the answer, I'll ask someone else to answer the question. So right now, you're going to ask a question, you're going to sit down, you're going to get an answer, whether you like the answer or it clarifies that issue for you or not, in 1 minute snippets, and that's it.
1 minute is not a snippet, Phil, and unfortunately the history we have here is not that people stop speak or that responses are given to a question. Frequently, it's a flat-out interruption.
Well, we're not in public comment right now, Tom, but well, we're trying to figure out what, I just want to clarify the way this is going to work, because I am going to have to be the person as the presiding officer who has to implement this. And to be honest with you, it's not something I agree with, but I'm going to be blamed for doing it. And that's, you know, when I shut somebody down, that's your 5 minutes. You get your 1 minute answer, you don't like it, too bad. Because...
Wait, excuse me. Why, Phil, why is a member of the public now engaging in a discussion with you
Tom,
when he hasn't been recognized?
Sorry, Tom,
You
you're
talk
out
about
of
running
order.
the meeting, that's
Yeah.
running the meeting.
Rick, you know, I find there's tremendous irony here that the person who has spoken the most on issues is now the one who wants to limit debate. It's pretty ironic. I mean, Rick, you would have a hard time saying hello in less than a minute.
Phil, I know you're playing to your audience, and that's good. Your material's a little weak, but you should be delighted that I'm bringing this up. If you feel that I'm the reason meetings run long, you should be leaping all over this to hold me to a minute.
Well, I don't have a problem with holding you to a minute. I have a problem with cutting the debate that the public has in a public forum, because that's what you're doing, and that's what's going to be implemented if, in fact, you vote for this.
Phil, not true. People have 5 minutes at the beginning, they have 5 minutes at the end, the same as they have had ever since we instituted the public comment at the start of the agenda.
They will not have clarification. I know that there have been several members of the public who come here consistently who ask multiple questions at one time and stop and pause and want an answer to that question. They're not going to get that. They're going to get, give me your questions, you'll get 1 minute, and that's it. So understand that that's where we're going with this format.
Fred, can you, since there's a motion and Mr. DeLucre has explained the motion, can you restate the motion so that we can go ahead with either seconding it and voting upon it? So
Frank, if you're voting on it, you should be able to restate the motion.
I want to know, I think I can restate
Okay,
the motion.
let's hear it.
Okay, but I'd like to hear what Fred understands.
What I wrote down?
You got 1 minute, Fred.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, from what I understand, we would still have comment on agenda items. A member of the public could speak on agenda items for 5 minutes uninterrupted. And after a member of the public speaks, then another member is entitled sequentially to come up and do the same thing. So you will engage all members of the public who wish to speak on agenda items up to 5 minutes uninterrupted. After the public members who wanted to speak on agenda items have spoken, the council members will each have a minute to respond to the members of the public who have addressed council on agenda items. That's what I think is that's what I've heard on that portion.
Should they choose?
In regard to your general public comment period at the end of the meeting, you are still maintaining the 5 minute time limit uninterrupted, and after the individual member of the public speaks for whatever portion of the 5 minutes they choose to engage, then the members of council would have 1 minute each to respond to that member of the public. And then a subsequent member of the public who wishes to address council would come up subject to the same 5 minute provision. I believe that's what the motion was.
Can I ask for a clarification?
Clarification of my interpretation of
Yes.
the motion?
So
Okay.
if 5 people come up and want to speak on agenda items, at the end of all 5 of those people speaking, the way you stated that, then each member of council would be allotted 1 minute to address all of those concerns.
You've asked me to recite what I
Right.
thought the motion was, and
Yeah,
what you have just said about my recitation is correct as I heard the motion. I mean, just a point on that, Mayor, though. When the agenda item is called, there is nothing that stops the members of council from engaging discussion on the agenda item. So if the 1-minute system doesn't work, council members are always entitled, when a matter is before the members of council, to engage discussion, answer questions, engage one another. So I don't think this shuts that aspect down.
Oh, no, there's always discussion according to Robert's rules after the motion, but the clarification that you may want, you're going to have to wait until everybody's done, and then we'll answer your question within that 1-minute time frame.
Yeah. Yep.
And it, it could be as simple as, what does resolution, what does this specific resolution mean on this particular, for this particular item? But we'll have to wait until everybody speaks, and then we'll give you an answer. And it is agreed by council members that once you speak, you don't get to bank your time. So we don't have people coming back and forth, because they're going to have questions that they probably wanted answered the first time.
That's the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a first and a
First and a second, I guess we have roll call.
Simpson,
I'm not going to let anybody take anybody's First Amendment rights away. If somebody asks me a question, I'm going to take what time I need to respond to that person, and if that person asks me another question, I'm going to respond to him or her again. So I'm going to say no.
McClay,
Yes.
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
This motion and these practices won't take away anyone's First Amendment rights. They will enhance them.
It does.
Excuse me.
if
We're free to make
yeah.
statements before we vote, as you must know. For the reasons I expressed earlier, I support it, yes.
Palilla,
I'm going to vote yes. I don't believe that this takes anything away from the public. I think it gives them the opportunity to address every agenda item. I might remind the public that several years ago, and I might remind the public that it was a motion that I introduced. City Council never gave any supporting documentation to the public. So the public was in quite a bit in the dark. I think since that time, the public has the opportunity to, once the agenda's online, to look at every agenda item, look at all the supporting documentation, and it gives you the ability to ask any type of question you have on any agenda item. This does not take that away. It merely identifies the amount of time someone has and the amount of time council has to respond to it. So I vote in favor of.
Kern,
I'm going to vote yes. I believe that streamlining the way we have discussion about agenda items will only be beneficial for this body and for the public at large.
Mayor Gunther,
I'm voting no. First of all, the data does not support the conclusion that has been made. We have not had a problem with people commenting on agenda items, has not been a problem, has not taken an inordinate amount of time. We have had a problem with the regular public portion, and quite frankly, if everyone were to operate in a business-like manner and council were to contain their remarks in a reasonable time frame, we would not be taking an inordinate amount of time to get through the public portion. I think this is less than transparent, less than open, and it will not clarify issues for people who are coming to their city council to find answers. So it is absolutely wrong, and quite frankly, is probably going to be unenforceable.
Motion carried.
Okay, move to our first public comment, ordinance, public comment on agenda items only.
Can't give me any answers.
Hold on a second. Just want to remind you, and let me make sure I get this right. You can comment on any agenda item that is on the agenda this evening. You have, you need to state your name and address to the record. You have 5 minutes to address your comments to council. You will not receive any answers during the time that you are speaking or receive any clarifications. You will need to sit down, and then council will give you a 1-minute response. So would anyone like to speak on the agenda items? Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. I'd first like to thank Assemblyman Chris Brown for giving us the legislative update tonight. I'm glad to see that our Assemblyman comes to Brigantine. Secondly, and not less important, I'd like to congratulate Chief Wilder for being sworn in as Chief of Fire Department Brigantine. I wish him safety and a long tenure in that position. I'd like to comment on number 11, the introduction of prohibiting smoking on public grounds. I had a question about the wall. Is that county property or is it Brigantine property? Because if it's county property, it may not be able to be enforced by this ordinance. And if that's the case, I would ask that this council go to the county to enforce the same no smoking ordinance as we do right over the side of the wall on the beach. So to keep a clean ordinance. Also, I'd like to know if this council has intentions, how they're going to notify the public about this ordinance. If it's signs or on the website or a public service announcement, I think it's important that the public be informed that this particular ordinance may be in play. And finally, I urge council to pass this ordinance tonight. I have some questions about the salary ordinance. What changes are in the salary ordinance that's being introduced tonight? Are there any increases in salaries? I see that the solicitor is lined off. I don't quite understand this. I guess I can't get a response right now. But if the solicitor is not to be part of the salary ordinance because he's actually a professional and not an employee, I think it should also be the same for the planning board solicitor that's on the salary ordinance, and that should be lined out of the salary ordinance because of the same reasons as your own solicitor, because he's also a professional, not an employee. I also ask why some of the employees on the salary ordinance, they're graduated, actually in the ordinance, several years between the margin of the minimum and the maximum salary. Specifically, the Class 1 special police officers, the first year is a certain amount, the second year is another amount, the third year, and then the fourth and up. The beach inspectors are also the same way. They're gradually increased right in the salary ordinance by year. So I just ask of some of the other employees, specifically the part-time firefighter EMTs, the part-time EMTs, and the part-time dispatcher, and also our Class 2 special police officers, for what reason they don't, in the salary ordinance, get that automatic gradual increase within that margin. So I'm asking those employees, there's two different ones that do get that. Why don't some of them, such as the Class 2 police officers, don't get that increase from year 1, 2, 3, and 4? That differential, I'd like to know why there's that differential in the salary ordinance. And also
Someone's taking notes.
the number 15, authorizing acceptance of the RFPs to operate golf course under the lease agreement. It was my understanding recently that they weren't set out yet, and I talked to Councilman Palillo. I don't know, is that the RFP that's going to be sent out for it, or is that the RFPs actually coming back? I just don't understand what you're going to be voting on tonight, and whatever they are, I was told before that the RFPs will be on the website for public review, and I didn't see that.
Time's up.
Such as this agenda was not on the website until after 9 o'clock this morning. So I don't know how the hell we're able to review the website, go to work in the morning, and be able to comment on stuff tonight when it's not even on the website until the morning of the meeting.
John, thank you. Okay. If you needed a better example as to why this doesn't work, I think you couldn't have asked for one. We have, John, I think you may have asked questions about 8 or 9 items that are on the agenda. I'll start with the county property. The seawall has been built and is maintained by the county, but the ownership of it, I believe, is still ours.
Excuse me. Point of order, please, Mayor. Are you responding now to Mr. Pucci? When
Or do we have to wait for everyone?
The motion we just
We have to
adopted
wait for
was
everyone.
at the conclusion of all agenda comments.
Well, Rick, once again, I don't know how you folks better reconsider your motion because it's not workable.
Phil, it's not workable because you immediately jumped in and started responding in derogation of what we just voted on.
Well,
If that was confusing, then okay, now it shouldn't be confusing.
Rick, you know, one of the things that amazes me is when the majority of this council goes down the road in the wrong direction, you all go together like a bunch of lemmings and not realize that that you're going in the wrong direction. And then
Phil,
for whatever reason, you just
Council-
continue along that way.
Another
All right,
point of order.
any other public comment? Anyone
Thank you,
else
Mayor.
want to comment on the agenda items? Anyone else on the agenda items?
I don't have a 1-minute timer. I'm not sure what to do.
You don't have 1 minute? We'll use a stopwatch. Let's get an RFP out for a stopwatch.
Yes, Rose? Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we're asking
On the agenda.
On the, anything on the agenda? Anyone else on the agenda? Yes, Tom. If you would, you got to state your name and address for the record.
Tom Cooker, 13 Beach Cove. Now, is this for any and all?
Anything on the agenda?
You spoke back to me.
I shouldn't
Is
have
that
talked,
against
I'm
the
sorry.
rules? All right. On the RFPs, I thought we already handled that better than a year ago in regards to the golf course. You know, when one individual was here at a high price, and then we did more research, had somebody else come here and laid out a whole different structure plan. Now, are we going back to square one on this?
This is ridiculous.
And it seems like if you, Mayor, didn't receive this as per this morning, you know, that takes transparency right out of throws it right out of the wind. And so many of us that didn't have the opportunity to see this at all, and it just seems like it just changes as you go along. And it definitely takes all the responsibility and the authority away from the individuals that know the most. Where we can't comment back and forth, but the individuals on the platform can debate issues back and forth. That's not fair as well. I still got to use my time. It's just ludicrous. I think the whole thing's ludicrous. I've been around a long time. I've seen many council meetings and everything, and addressed people who get an answer and everything. It's quite bizarre. I don't see how it's going to work.
Thank you, Tom.
Can't say that.
Rose, you have to please come up, use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Yeah, please use the microphone. Thank you.
We can't answer any of your questions.
I understand that. I'm confused. I want to come up and speak on...
Rose, you need to state your name and address for the
Rose
record.
Roberts, 903 Saracen Road. I want to come up and speak on the ordinance, but you're calling for agenda items, but yet Mr. DeLucre said that he called up and said this is an agenda item. So am I able to speak on the ordinance that was just passed? Or whatever, resolution, whatever it is.
That's an
So-
agenda item.
so it is an agenda item, because I don't see it on here, so I just want to make sure. I'm pretty embarrassed at the way that council has acted this evening. It's quite apparent that the 5 Democrats knew about this prior to the other 2 council members. I think it's a disgrace. I thought it was impossible to see how that they could be any more inept, except for tonight is proof that they can be. My feeling is, and I don't mean to embarrass you, Mayor Gunther, my feeling is this is orchestrated so that you, who seem to be one of 2 people on council that really work hard and know this island of Brigantine, can answer the public's questions. They don't want to give you more than a minute. I think it's wrong. I think it's political. I think they're doing it so that you do not shine like we know that you shine, that we know that what has been done to this island in 20 years, which I'm sure half of those people up there don't even know anything about it. And I'm embarrassed that they call themselves representatives of the people of Brigantine. There is no transparency in this Democratic government. There is none whatsoever. And I don't mean to embarrass you, Mayor, but it's to stifle you so that you cannot say all that you know about the city of Brigantine and all that you've done about the city of Brigantine. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else, any other public? Fred, you already, were you, no, that was on this one. You're good
Agenda
on this one.
items.
Come on up on this one then. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Again, Fred Tachterman, 1214 East Shore Drive, Brigantine. I'm fortunate enough to live on a golf course. I think our golf course is a tremendous asset to our island, to all the residents of the island. I think it's a tremendous asset for our tourists, our visitors, our day trippers, people who come and visit for a week, a month. I think it's extremely critical what we do going forward with the golf course. I know it, we bought it, 10 or 11, 12 years ago, something like that. It was, modestly profitable after paying the mortgage or whatever for most of those years. I know we ran into a bad time in the past 3 years with the golf course. It started costing us real money last year. I think whatever the council does, they have to be very, very careful because it is such a tremendous asset to this community. I think, if I understand correctly, in 4 years or so, we will have the mortgage paid off on the golf course. We'll own it free and clear. Anything that we do going forward, we have to keep in mind that it's such an incredible asset to us. If we're going to lease it to an organization or to a private company for 15 or 20 years or 5 years or 10 years, we have to make sure that it returns an investment back to the community. Personally, I would like to see the golf course stay in our ownership and be managed by a group with our continued ownership and not get into a long-term 25-year type of lease agreement with a private company. I'd like to see us, try to move mountains and small hills to keep that ownership and keep that controlled by this council and this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Any other public comment on any agenda items? Okay, I'm going to close the public portion. Jennifer, would you address all of the items that were asked about the salary ordinance?
Oh, absolutely. Okay,
Joe, do I set these?
just give me a second. Did you want to refer to any of the county, because you didn't get to answer your
Well,
part
why-
of it? Do you want me to just jump in the
Why
salary
don't we do it with
ordinance?
the salary ordinance first?
Okay, so some of the questions with the salary ordinance was, you were asking about some of the increases that are on the salary ordinance. They would include, let me see. Sorry. They would include the personnel director, the construction official, and the recreation director. The maximum salaries increase in all of those three positions. And this is because in the budget, the council did pass a 2% salary increase for all employees. The maximum amount in our salary ordinances in existence does not cover the full 2%. So the current, I'll just give you an example for the personnel director. The current maximum salary is $75,000. Her salary with the 2% would go up to $75,600. So the $75,000 would not capture the full 2% raise. Okay. The second question was, why was the solicitor off? I believe the salary ordinance. The solicitor is taken off because in the past, pension did allow for municipalities to pay the solicitor's salary, even other professional salaries such as the engineer. That stopped a number of years back. Our solicitor did fall under a grandfather clause with pension. The solicitor changed. Since we no longer have a solicitor that's receiving any type of pension from the pension board, we're no longer able to move forward giving any of professional services pension. It's best to take this off the salary ordinance. Okay, then the questions were, why were some of our employees, such as the Class 1 officers, they're put into steps. You see the Class 1 first year, the second year, the third year, and so forth. That's a mimic off of our various contracts for police, fire, I believe even our white collar has steps. Now the Class 1s we've been using for years, so we have different Class 1 officers in different steps. That's the same thing with the beach inspectors and also the lifeguards. They're in steps as well. The lifeguards have a contract. Class 1s were not part of the contract. Beach inspectors do not have a contract, so the salary ordinance is only for non-contractual bargaining unit employees. So you will see steps in that. The reason the part-time firefighters and the special Class 2s are not in steps is because this is the first year we do not have anyone in Step 2s at this point. It was also mentioned about the part-time dispatchers. I'll have to look into that. We have had part-time dispatchers for a while now. I do not know why different steps are not addressed in the salary ordinance. It could be that they're now part of the bargaining unit contract, but I don't know. I need to get that information back to council. The next thing, that was it for the salary ordinance. It went on to this was Mr. Pucci about the RFP for the golf course, and he also asked some questions you were about to answer about the wall, I believe
Right.
the seawall with the smoking ordinance.
The seawall is maintained by the county. My understanding is it's still on Brigantine property. I don't know, the solicitor or the engineer may have a different take on that.
I believe the majority of the seawall is within the county right-of-way of Brigantine Boulevard. A portion of it, though, may extend beyond that right-of-way and onto city property. So it was constructed, as you know, in a shared agreement with the state, the county, and Brigantine. So I believe there's a hand in it for at least the county and Brigantine.
But does
So
that
the
mean?
county may be involved in that, but along with that, the library is also leased by the county, but it's still, the city retains ownership of that site. So it's a good question, John.
Fred, does that mean that we still have jurisdiction over it, even though it's in a right-of-way?
This is in terms of the smoking ordinance? If it truly is county property, and a right-of-way would be county property, then it may very well be that an ordinance that is particular to the municipality and municipal property would not apply. So that's probably the cleanest answer at this point. I suppose this issue raises the question as to whether the municipality, whether council would like some communication with the county as to whether the county would consent to the enforcement of the municipal ordinance in that right-of-way area. We could probably do that informally and get some information back from the county on that point.
Your time's up.
The other question that was asked about the RFP, this, I think Mr. Cooker asked the question. This is the product of the individual who was hired to develop the RFP working with the golf course committee. So this is the RFP that would be sent out to potential bidders to bid on the golf course site, golf course operation, if you will. So this is the product that Mr. Glavin, working with the golf course committee and our solicitor, has been able to produce.
Mayor, just a point on that. On the agenda, item 15 speaks to the authorizing acceptance of. That is a misprint. What council will consider tonight with that resolution 124 is authorizing the issuance of. This is the issuance, the outgoing document. It is not the acceptance of something coming back in. So that may also clarify Mr. Pucci's question.
Okay.
And just one other comment, Mr. Pucci. So if that is accepted tonight, then it will be placed on the city website and will go out to any and all potential bidders for the particular RFP.
Okay. Now I guess we can move on to our resolutions unless
I
everybody wants a
I want to
minute.
use my minute. I'll respond to Mr. Pucci. As far as the agenda, I'm sorry it wasn't up there for you to see sooner. We do get a draft. We know what's going to be on the agenda, but it's changing. Lynn sends it out, I think, on Wednesday to us, so we all have an idea, and we know what's on the agenda. All the supporting documentation might not be there, but eventually, from Wednesday, a couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, it starts to trickle in little by little. But we all see the agenda and everything on it well in advance. And I don't know why it wasn't on there sooner for you, but I would suggest that we try to get that up there a little sooner for you. There was something that was discussed tonight, and that was the resolution that Chris Brown was talking about. The mayor was the only one that saw that. I did not see those resolutions. I don't think they've been sent to us yet.
No, it literally just arrived on my desk as I got here this afternoon.
Yeah.
I guess through the clerk's office? Because the letter is dated July 15th, and the U.S. mail is not that fast.
Mhm. And Jennifer, did you mention anything, Mr. Pucci asked about the planning board solicitor? Since we removed the city solicitor, reason for keeping the planning board solicitor?
Where is the planning board solicitor?
Second page.
I can look, as long as we're not making any payments for the planning board solicitor through payroll, which I don't believe we are. I think it's professional service. However, as council knows, the professional services for the planning board get picked by the planning board. So as long as there's no payments made through our payroll system for the planning board solicitor, I can take that out of the salary ordinance as well.
If I can, I'd just like to respond to Ms. Roberts. We all found out about Councilman DeLucre's proposal on the 14th, I think, when we got the message. Everybody on council got it together. No one had any pre-knowledge.
Anybody else want to use their minute?
Yes,
I think you used part of it already. We'll have to figure out how that works. But go ahead, Tony.
It's for Mr. Tuchterman. Fred, I just want to let you know that you made a couple comments regarding the golf course. This long-term lease that we may get involved in once this RFP is distributed, we are looking to do what's in the best interest of the city, of the taxpayers in general. I do want to mention that the city will always own it, regardless who we lease it to. And I agree with you. The golf course is a tremendous asset. We want to keep it as an asset. We want to keep it as a golf course. We just want to try to limit the taxpayers from having any exposure to having to subsidize the golf course. But the city will always own it. So I hope that answers, you know, some of the questions that you had.
Okay, with that said, we'll move into our 56 minutes into the meeting. We'll move into our first vote on a resolution that's actually on the agenda.
2 hours.
And that's actually an ordinance. It's ordinance number 9 of 2014, prohibiting smoking on public grounds. This is an introduction. Give a motion a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any comment?
Fred? Yes, sir. How does this work with the golf course? I asked you that before.
Yes.
I gave you a heads up.
That's okay. When we're talking about the golf course and quite frankly the beach, the way this is written, the larger recreation areas such as the golf course and the beach would be included in the prohibition. Having said that, we have to be aware that there's a bill sitting on the governor's desk right now that would deal with all public recreation areas, including municipal recreation areas, and all beaches, including municipal beaches. That was passed by both houses of the legislature on June 26. At this point, it has not yet been signed by the governor. Should the governor sign that piece of legislation, as to these larger recreational areas, including beaches, there's provision that there could be up to 15% set aside where smoking would be permitted. I make the assumption that if the governor does sign that there will be a preemption and that the state law will supersede the municipal ordinance. So in terms of answering the question tonight, Councilman, the way we have drafted this, the ordinance does apply to beaches. It does apply to larger recreation areas such as the golf course. However, I think the more critical question is what is the governor going to do with the state legislation which will supersede ours?
How much time does the governor have to act?
45 days.
I'd move to table this motion until we see what the governor does,
Well,
and then vote at that time.
okay, that motion would table the ordinance in its entirety. If that's Councilman's intention.
Yes.
Well, Fred, it sounds like, depending on what the governor does with the bill that's awaiting a signature, it might be quite a bit at odds with the text of what we have here, and we would have to go back to square A anyway, wouldn't we?
Well, I think that if the governor does sign the bill, it is that piece of legislation that's going to control the area which is within the jurisdiction of that piece of legislation, which are these recreational areas. Yeah, just for cleanliness, we could go back to our ordinance and remove the beach reference and remove the large recreation reference and put in there that we will be governed by the state statute as to that type of facility. That is something we could do after that legislation passes. I mean, alternatively, you can carry this for another 30 days and see where the state legislation goes. we're already 30 days into, no, we're not 30 days into, we're June 26th till now. We are some 3 weeks, approaching 3 weeks into this in terms of the governor's timeline.
Fred, this also prohibits smoking on city property and in city vehicles, so there's more to the ordinance than just...
Oh, clearly,
yeah.
This is designed as a municipal ordinance on municipal property that far exceeds simply the larger recreational areas. Yes, Mayor.
So, Fred, I have a question and a comment. The state law prohibiting all large recreational areas, including our golf course, private golf courses will still be able to smoke, right? This would not affect private golf courses?
I have not read the legislation specifically, but my understanding of it, having taken a more cursory look, is that your statement is correct.
Okay.
This goes to governmental property, whether it is state, county, or municipality. And I'm talking now to the bill on the governor's desk.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I confirm that up for you, but that's what I believe that legislation does.
So I think that maybe we should table this, because if the state law gets enacted by the governor, that will enable us a 15% portion of the golf course to be accessible to smokers. And I think that we should consider that since we're going to be at a disadvantage between municipally owned golf courses and private golf courses.
Okay,
You want to carve out that section
well,
and
that's-
deal with the public property?
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm looking at, Mayor. If council, let me offer this statement, and then council can tell me what they want to do. If you want to go forward with the prohibition as to all municipal property, if you want to go forward with this document the way it is crafted as to municipal property, including vehicles, we can remove a few words from here that would not apply it to recreational areas and beaches, so that you would have a freestanding prohibition as to all other municipal property and vehicles, and then wait and see what happens at the state level and what the governor does. If the governor, for some reason, vetoes it, you then, in another bill, ordinance, go back and capture, if you wish, the beaches and the open space recreation areas. So, and at this point, we have not, Lynn, we haven't moved this yet, have we?
There's been a motion and a second so far.
Okay, so it would be then an amendment, and the amendment would,
There's also been a motion to table.
Right, but you're...
well, sequentially then, we can do it that way. If there's a motion to table.
Hasn't been
which
seconded,
has not been seconded, so you want to handle that first?
I'll second it. The motion to table, I'll second.
Okay.
So you're...
Mayor, you now have a motion to table the ordinance in its entirety. A motion to table is not debatable.
Okay. We had a motion to table the entire ordinance. So we need roll call on that motion.
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
No.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. So we'll come back and deal with this once we get to where the governor's going on the legislation that's been passed. In fact, there was an article, I think, in today's paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is Resolution 2014, authorization to submit applications to the post-Sandy planning assistance grants.
No, hold it.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
You
South
missed
Jersey
two.
Gas. Municipal ordinance number 10 of 2014, introduction municipal consent for South Jersey Gas to use our streets. We have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, they don't use our streets, we don't get gas, right? So, Ed, anything in this ordinance, or Fred, that you see that causes any problems?
No, the ordinance is fine with me. We've dealt with this in other municipalities. It's fairly standard right now. I don't know if Ed has anything.
No, it's, actually, ours expired a number of years ago. South Jersey Gas came to my office, told us we have to update. Their 50-year leases is simply what you said for them to be able to use it's a formality for South Jersey Gas to come in and do work in
Great.
Brigantine.
Okay, motion second, any further discussion? Could we have roll call?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2014-123, authorization to submit applications to the post-Sandy
Nope.
planning assistance grant.
You skipped again.
I did?
Salary ordinance?
Salary ordinance.
Mine goes from 14 to
13.
Yeah, mine goes from 12 to,
Down the bottom of the first
12 to 14.
13 is number 11, the salary ordinance, introduction.
No, I don't have it on mine.
That's not mine either.
That's weird. I have it on mine.
You have it on yours? Okay, you want to do it?
Who's
You
on
wanna do
first?
it, Lynn?
It's the introduction
Wait a
of the
minute.
salary ordinance. Do you have
That should be
these?
13, introduction to the salary
There you
ordinance.
go. There you go, right at the bottom.
Number 13.
Okay.
Is
Right at the
ordinance
bottom.
number 11 of 2014.
Do you want it?
No.
Number 13?
No, I got cut off on these.
Okay.
Yeah, mine don't.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I got a couple comments. I see we had interim deputy chief of police and fire. Why do we have that in our salary ordinance when we don't have deputy chiefs?
They were put in there last year. This isn't anything new with this ordinance. They were put in there last year on the advice of the Labor Council because of the lawsuit we were going through with Ray Cox because of using the term acting. So these are the terminologies that the Labor Council asked for, and we went through it at the council meetings where we did the introduction of the salary ordinance last year.
But it says deputy chiefs.
That was the terminology he gave us to use.
But I think there are other ordinances where there's no mention of a deputy chief because it was taken out. We actually reduced that rank.
This was actually approved at last year's. This isn't anything new with this salary ordinance.
Right.
Do you
This
have
was
last year's
approved.
salary ordinance?
No, but you should all have it. The only things that are changed are the ones that are actually struck out and highlighted on this document. That was all approved, and we had actually a lengthy discussion last year about those titles because that was when the Labor Council advised us not to use the term acting anymore.
But just, for consistency, if you don't have the position, you can't have an interim.
Well, he just said that's to use. I
Right.
mean, I don't have any issue taking it out. It's just I won't be able to put anyone in acting positions or give them
Right.
the out-of-title pay for that period of time. And I do have somebody working in that position, which is Johnny until Ernie's terminal leaves over.
So for.
That's the interim public safety director.
Yeah.
Right.
Not public safety.
Or public safety, or public works, there we
Don't
go.
start that again.
Public works.
Which is in there as well.
So for flexibility reason, you think we should leave it in?
Well, yes, that was the advice of the Labor Council
Okay.
last year.
But isn't there an ordinance that spells out the rank in the police department?
The rank in the police department,
Or
yes,
by
but we
code?
don't have, what was I going to say? We don't have any interim positions addressed in the code.
No, but we don't have a deputy chief either.
Uh-huh. If if council wants to take it out, we can take it out, but we'll just, we'll be in a situation where we won't have anyone in acting positions.
You need to have an interim position in there.
Right. I mean, I guess council could always choose to change the code to add those titles if they like.
You have an interim for a position that doesn't exist, if we want to make this thing clean.
So just delete the word deputy,
Yeah,
acting?
I don't have a problem with that. I'm going on the advice of the Labor Council, and I'm giving council the advice on the Labor Council to call it interim deputy. We can take out the deputy, or you can change the code to allow for deputy positions in the code.
you don't want to add more positions in the police and fire department.
I'm not the, it's
No,
council's
rank, I mean.
decision, you know,
Yes.
to change the code. It's not me.
But put
My
it,
decision.
is there any problem, I mean, what's the downside of leaving it in?
It's a position that doesn't exist.
Oh. This is introduction,
But-
though, and if it's on the advice of the Labor Council, I really don't want to second-guess him when we don't have the information. And, you know, if by the time of our next meeting, or if it comes up at the next meeting for adoption, then, you know, we can get whatever information as to why the Labor Council recommended that. So I don't see any downside in keeping that in there. And separate question, Jennifer, in section 6 of the ordinance, we reference employees receiving a 0% salary increase in 2013. Do we want to make that 2014 or no?
No, that was actually, I'm asking all employees, including the non-represented, all the, what do you call it, the bargaining unit, like the Teamsters, for 1 year of 0% increases. The non-represented staff agreed to that in 2013. This was put in 2012, you know, for the 2013 year. We also agreed with that with the Teamsters, who reconciled. I'm currently negotiating with the police, fire, and dispatch for a 1 year 0% increase. And council did approve a budget to allow for 2% increase for all non-represented staff.
So why is section 6 in there?
It's just been in there since 2012, and it doesn't affect this year at all. It just says all employees will receive a 0% salary increase in 2013.
Right, but it's not relevant to this ordinance at all.
We can take that out. It doesn't affect this ordinance. It says that in 2013, they got a 0%.
I don't see last year's in my packet.
It's
Sorry.
because this is last year's. The only thing that changed in last year's are whatever's highlighted. You'll see whatever's struck out is the things that changed. And then you'll see underlined are the things that were increased. Everything else is exactly the same. And the reason it's done like this is because council had asked me to give them documents that show changes on them as far as the salary ordinance goes since 2012.
Okay, any other issues? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
No.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Malilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
I'm going to vote no. I don't believe we should be hiring part-time firefighters or EMTs, which are included in this ordinance.
Motion carried.
Okay, now I think we're on 14. Resolution 2014-123, authorization to submit applications to the post-Sandy Planning Assistance Grants. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and this will be through Jim Rotella's office will be submitting these?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Malilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Move to item 15, which is Resolution 2014-124, authorizing the acceptance of RFPs to operate the golf course under a lease agreement. And this should be authorizing not the acceptance, but the issuance of RFPs. We have a motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any roll call?
Well,
Or excuse me, any discussion?
I have a comment about it, and we talked about this a little bit in the executive session. I believe to make the taxpayers whole, they should know when the taxpayers become whole under this RFP. There should be some kind of amount on the rent, not an open-ended thing. We just did an ice cream ordinance that we demanded $70,000. We didn't get anybody. We demanded $40,000. We didn't get anybody. Some gentleman sat out here, I think the last council meeting we had, he had a $20,000 check 2 weeks before 4th of July, and we didn't accept that, which we couldn't have at that particular time. So all our RFPs had some kind of amount put in there, so they knew how much they would have to pay. I own some commercial properties. I do not let them tell me what they're gonna pay. I demand what I need to become whole or profitable. So, I believe in this RFP, it has to have some kind of rental demand on the property itself.
And in this RFP that we're proposing to put out for issuance, does have a page pricing proposal. And there is a section that says license fee payment, so when this goes out, all bids coming in will have that.
How much does this say in there?
It
It's a
doesn't
blank.
say,
It's a blank.
but when they come in, the proposals, everyone will be able to fill it in.
What they want to do to pay, not what we want to do to pay.
Yeah, but then we pick the best one.
Right. And we have no obligation to accept any offers if we don't believe that they are not acceptable.
At this juncture, and let me say first, I want to thank the members of our golf committee,
Thanks, thanks, Rick.
particularly Councilman Simpson, for putting in long hours of work and study and research on the options that are the best options that are out there for us with the golf course. And although we may, at this juncture, disagree on the direction we should take, the point of the RFP is not a contract. The RFP is designed to cast the widest net that we can to see which parties are out there who have interest in entering into an agreement with us. I disagree with Andy to this extent. I too want to get the maximum dollar we can get. If we're going to enter into any agreement with anybody, I want it to be for the best possible price. What I don't want to do, though, is to arbitrarily, because it would be arbitrary, put a price in there which may have the opposite effect of chasing away potential bidders. The process, as it's structured and as it's playing out, makes sense and gives us the best shot we have at getting the best possible deal on the golf course, if there's going to be a deal. Councilman Palillo is exactly right. We don't have to ultimately enter into an agreement with anybody. But I think this RFP is well thought out. We've had excellent professional consultation, both in-house from Fred and from our hired consultant. And what should happen, what I hope happens, is that we get a variety of offers, probably with a variety of different price points and a variety of different proposals as to capital improvements that they will do and the sequence in which they'll do them. And then the work for council and the work for our professionals and our manager is going to be to look at those proposals, see which ones have the most merit, and then, and only then, sit down with the people and hammer out a deal. And the fact that somebody may come in and say, I'll give you X dollars, well, when we sit down with them, if the rest of the proposal looks like it has some promise, X doesn't mean anything. We tell them we want X plus, and if we don't reach agreement, we don't reach agreement. But right now, this is exactly the right move. The golf course is an asset. It's a tremendous asset. It's going to be controlled, if we go through the RFP process and enter into a contract, it's going to be controlled by the city, because we'll still own it, and it'll be through a lease. If we go through the process and the numbers aren't right and the deals aren't right and we can't make them right through negotiation, we don't do it.
Rick, that's all well and good, but all our RFPs before miniature golf, we demanded $20,000. If we got more than $20,000, if we didn't get $20,000, we didn't lease it out. Here we go with the ice cream. We demanded $70,000. Nobody bid on it. $40,000. Nobody bid on it. It seems like it's just a rush job to get this thing done with. So, with the biggest asset that we have in Brigantine, we don't demand a certain amount of money has to be paid to the citizens of Brigantine. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Andy, I would look at the ice cream example to
Well,
a counter end.
How about the miniature golf? We put 20,000 on there, and we got the 20,000.
Yeah, that's right. That
So,
was good. But,
it's good.
so with the
We-
ice cream,
we put
the fact is,
300,000
we put
on
a
here.
price on the ice cream and we didn't get it. So that's what I fear is we put a price on the golf course and we don't get bidders.
Well, then we go back and, because we went back to 40,000.
Well, that didn't work
Then
either.
there was a guy out of here with $20,000 in his hand one time.
I remember that. The golf course, and let's compare our miniature golf with the regular golf course. You kind of can't compare them.
No,
The
but
miniature
you're
golf's a
actually
nice
putting
defined
a
small
number on
asset,
it.
and we know that there's only one variable there. How much money is that operator going to be able to bring in? We have a lot of moving parts with our golf course, and we're going to impose a lot of requirements on the operator if there's going to be one.
Okay, any other discussion?
Are we still on the vote?
The,
What?
no, we're not.
Is my minute up? What?
Andy voted no.
No, we were still in the discussion, please.
What, you reading my mind?
No, we're still in discussion.
Just trying to move it
I think it's
along.
good to hear, it's good
One
to,
minute, one minute was up.
it's good to hear from Councilman Palella and Councilman DeLucre that this RFP does not have to be awarded, that the proposal does not have to be awarded. But a couple of things that really concern me about the RFP, and I want to be very upfront about it. First of all, Councilman Simpson is absolutely correct. We entered this RFP process because the taxpayers this year had to pay a subsidy to keep the golf course whole. And the whole idea behind this, and the reason the subsidy was there, we all know, was because Superstorm Sandy lowered the revenue to $900,000. And we then, of course, had to subsidize the golf course. But that was the reason. So the rationale is to make the taxpayers whole. The reality is, for the next 4 years, we have a $400,000 debt service payment that has to be paid. That is an obligation that the taxpayers of Brigantine have. The reality also is, and you know, I've been on the golf course, I've talked to a lot of golfers. Golf course is in very good shape right now. The reality is, in the golf course master plan, you don't have to do one thing in that plan to open up that golf course next year. Not one thing. Everything that is in place right now would continue to work. You don't have to do anything. And there may be a couple of years you may have to fix the sprinkler system if you need to get it to limp along, but in 4 years you're going to own it. So if you're putting out an RFP and the taxpayers are paying $400,000 a year, anybody operating that golf course has to first pay the taxpayers $400,000 a year, or we're holding the city to a higher standard than we're holding an investor, which makes no sense. The golf course, and there's some misinterpretation of this, has never been run by the city. It's always been run by a third-party operator. And the city does not run a golf course. We're not in the golf course business. So if the taxpayers aren't whole going into this, then you know you're paying for someone else to make a profit on the golf course. The other part is the time frame. We're looking at getting proposals out in, I guess, sometime in August, and then having them back in September, and then being able to award this on November 3rd. The time frame between September and November, they're going to interview potential bidders on October 20th, and then we're going to interview whoever put the proposals in, and then award on November 3rd. That seems to be rushed, and this thing is going to be up and running by January 1st. I can be honest with you. We couldn't hire 2 chiefs. The only applicants were down the hall in that time frame. I don't know how we're going to award a 24-year contract to operate the golf course. So I have real concerns about this time frame, and the other piece of this is that it will be modified to read up to 24 years with a lease, but I think the people who live on the golf course, the people who use the golf course, and all the taxpayers certainly of Brigantine who have an interest in the golf course need some time to digest what this means to them from an operational standpoint. That time frame to award concerns me about what that's going to mean to everyone here in Brigantine. And of course, the last thing I want to leave you with is I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I have to tell you that everyone I spoke to said, why don't you give it some more time, because the golf course is in great shape, it's doing much better. Why are you rushing to do this right now? And there seems to be a lot of sentiment out there about golf course has made a tremendous comeback after Sandy. Let it operate and let's see where this plays out over the next few years, rather than rush into an RFP right now, because quite frankly you're negotiating in some ways from a position of weakness, not a position of strength, because you had a year that was that was really low, and you had some years that were trending low as well. So I'm not in favor of this RFP going out, and I do appreciate the work that's been done on it. I know everybody's been very professional, but I don't think it's the right thing for the city of Brigantine right now.
Can I just jump in for a second? I just want to remind Mayor and all of council that we have Matt Galvin here, who is the RFP consultant, to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from council members? Any questions for Mr. Galvin? Okay.
I have some comments. I don't think we're rushing into this at all. I mean, for the last 6 years, we've depleted the golf utility fund to the tune of almost $2 million. So I think sitting here and doing nothing is a big mistake. And this is a request for proposal. This is not accepting any proposal. And you say you want money up front and you want to know how much money they're going to pay you, but how much capital improvements are they going to make? So that's why you can't set an amount. Let's get the proposals to find out how much in capital improvements are they going to make, and then figure out how much they're going to pay in a lease agreement. So I'm not going to sit here and do nothing with this golf course, because that's what's happened over the last 6 or 7 years. And I think this is a good move for the city. It's a good move for the taxpayers. Last year, we subsidized $765,000. The year before that, another 100,000 or so. And the projections this year look like we'll be subsidizing it again, another 250,000. So really, something needs to be done, and this is the right thing.
Lisa, I don't think your numbers are accurate. I would ask you to check them.
Which numbers?
Yeah, get back to $2 million and the 100,000, and yeah, I don't think you've been accurate in those numbers, but I would ask you to check them, see if you are.
The fund has not decreased, almost $2 million.
No.
Never had 2 million in.
Close to it.
No. Check the numbers.
Right. Well, let me just mention one other factor that we're not talking about here, and I'm not going to go over the entire history of and litany of reasons why we should or shouldn't do anything, but the reality is it's not Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy caused the most dramatic drop in revenues last year, but it's a trend. It's a 6-year trend, and it's not limited to us. It's throughout the industry. It's throughout the country. Right now, the biggest problem that the taxpayers face is not that in this particular budget year or next year or last year, the number may have been this or that. It might be a 200,000, 300,000. That's important, and you don't want to be in the red. But the bigger thing is that long term, we're looking at an asset, and it's not about how nice the course is. The course is nice. The course is playable, of course. You don't need tomorrow to do anything to play. But the trends in the golf industry are all going against us. Our own experience is going against us in terms of what's happened over the past 6 years. Worsened, yes, for 1 year by the hurricane, but by no means did that cause what happened in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. So we have to look at the long term. And the long term, if we do nothing, yes, in 4 years, we won't have any more debt service. But in the time between now and then, that's going to come out of the taxpayer's pocket if revenues at the course aren't sufficient to cover it, and now they're not. So I don't want to put...
What I'm getting at is you don't want to guarantee a $400,000 payment that the taxpayer's going to have to make.
But Phil, we have that now in essence. If the course doesn't make money, whatever it falls short, and the $400,000 is a bill we have to pay each year for these next 4 years, that does come out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Well, it hasn't until last year.
Well, because we've been depleting our surpluses, and now we're at the point, I'm not saying the whole $400,000 came out, but you can't deny it. Revenues do not equal costs when you factor in debt service. That's been our trend. We want to explore, I want to explore, whether there's a better alternative out there. And I've said from the beginning, I don't know that there is or that there will be. But I don't want to close the door on that possibility, and I don't want to structure the RFP in such a way that it discourages anybody who might have an interest. I want to get them in here, and let's see what they can do for us. And then I'll compare that to the alternative of keeping the status quo and do the best projections I can about what I think is going to happen over the next 5, 10, 15 years if the city maintains the role it now has. But I want to have an option. Right now we don't.
I think one of the big issues too is that we're trying to remove the risk from the taxpayers. Because as you said, with the irrigation system, we can fix it and putz it along for a couple of years, but then if it tanks, it's totally on the taxpayers, the way things go now. But if we have an opportunity now to take that risk away, because we still don't know how this is going to fly. But unless we launch it, we're never going to know if it's going to fly or not. So this is a means to get the information to go the next step, to try to remove the risk from the taxpayers' back.
I think everyone's been heard on this issue, but I think an open mind when these things come in. I hope this time frame doesn't indicate that this is a fait accompli, that this is going to occur, and that concerns me. That we would be awarding a contract and have this thing up and running by January 1st. The time frame just kind of tells me that we're looking to move this thing on the fast track.
Mayor, if I could just make a comment. That time frame was put together by Matt Galvin, the professional who put together the RFP, not by anyone on council. So just the public needs to understand that was Mr. Galvin's timeline.
Very good. Okay, any other council comments? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Well, I guess you read my mind already, but for reason, I deal with Shell Oil Company, Monroe Muffler, Goodyear Tire. I do not send them a lease and say fill in the amount. I tell them what I want. And if they can't afford it or they don't want to afford it, you move on to the next project. And that's what you have to do when you're leasing out something. You've got to make sure your expenses are covered, or at least get as close as possible so you can weather the storm. And, you know, I agree with, if we have somebody comes up with a great amount of money in the beginning or do some creative financing, I would have to look at that. But besides that, I can't vote yes on something right now until we have some hard numbers in there to protect the taxpayers of Brigantine. So I'm voting no on this.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palillo?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
I'm voting no for a lot of the same reasons that Councilman Simpson said, and I also think that, you know, after Superstorm Sandy and the recovery that we're making, we ought to give the golf course some more time with a third-party operator to see what the revenue looks like over the next couple of years as we pay off the debt service and move forward. So I'm voting no.
Motion carried.
Okay. Move to Resolution 2014-125, award a contract for engineering consultants for capital improvement projects. And this is for the paving project.
Phil, excuse me, can we bundle these?
That was,
I love to hear that.
I don't know, Fred, if we can bundle, they're all individual contracts, but can they be bundled?
1 through 39.
Well, maybe 16 through 21.
Whatever. We vote on them other ones again.
This is 5 or 6 resolutions.
Right.
I mean, given the nature of them and the expenditure of funds, I would prefer you do them individually.
Okay. All right, so we have the award of contract for the municipal, for the paving project, 2014 paving project, professional engineering services and bid documents were required, and they went through the entire process, and they were evaluated by a municipal engineer in the city manager's office, and the contract for the paving goes to CME Associates based on their low bid of $36,900. Can I have a motion a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
A question, if I could, for Ed, and it's probably the same question for all 6 of these. Were each of these engineering contracts solicited to or presented to all of the engineering firms that we recognize?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
The RFP was sent out as a bundle to all of our consulting engineers.
Okay. And in each of the cases, tonight, we're being asked to award to the lowest bidder?
In each case, my recommendation is the lowest responder, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, we move to resolution 2004.
I wanna-
You ready to finish it? Okay,
I have a
sorry.
question for Ed. Ed, the paving projects that are included in this contract, does it include all the paving projects that were on the capital improvement plan?
It does not. In my letter of recommendation, I outline the projects that are included in this paving.
Uh-huh.
So it is the 200 block of 8th Street, which is on the capital list. It is Bay Shore Avenue, the northbound lane. And it is the Sandy-related roadway repairs, which is also on the capital list, and miscellaneous repairs, which are also on the capital list. So it's not all of them, but it's most of them.
Are the others in line for work
That's
this year?
correct. My understanding from the discussion, one item on one of the locations on the paving list in the capital bond, we were to wait until after we do these projects and get through and find the balance and then work towards that
Okay.
one.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeod?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Pallola?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2014-126, award of contract for engineering consultants for capital improvement, the Bayside bulkhead replacement at City Dock and 14th Street, 14th Street South Street end, and this would go to Mazer Consulting based on their low bid of $29,180. Have a motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ed, I have a question on the work on the bulkheads. It says here you're going to include minor repairs to municipal street bulkheads at 10 locations. Does that include 12th Street North bulkhead?
It does, yes.
Okay.
We've identified 10 locations that had Sandy-related damage, not severe structural, but the cap mainly. things like that.
Capping and the siding.
Some bolting, correct.
Thank you.
Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeod?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Pallola?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is Resolution 2014-127, is the award of contract for the replace the flat roof at the fire department and the public works, and this also goes to Mazer Consulting based on their low bid of $9,800. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeod?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Pallola?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next is award of contract for engineering consultants to replace the tennis court lights with Musco Sports Lighting System. And this is awarded to Endicott Engineering based on their low bid of $12,600. A motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Ed, can you explain Musco lighting to us?
That's the sports system, the sports lighting system that we have in just about all of our recreation complexes. It's the metal poles. It is a sports light that we have the ability to turn on and off remotely and also monitor the performance and the bulb life remotely as well. It's a system that works very well with Public Works in their maintenance and operation of the parks.
So it's similar to what we have at 26th Street.
That would have been easier to say, yes. It's actually on every one of our sports complexes.
Hey, what's the total cost of that?
So what you're awarding tonight is the engineering design.
Right.
The estimated cost is a little over 100,000, 115, something in that range.
165,000, the replacement lights at the tennis courts?
That number includes the engineering work.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in that 115 to plus or minus. A little bit depends on some of the work that will come out in the design.
And these lights are specifically for the tennis courts as opposed to the hockey area, the miniature golf area, et cetera?
That's correct. The hockey courts have their own Musco system. They also shed light on the miniature golf. The football field has its own system. The Babe Ruth field has its own system.
Do we have any data as to how much usage these courts get at night? Can you share that with us?
Yeah,
through the Muscus, I do the reports with Jennifer whenever we're asked for them. The Musco system has a very detailed usage.
No. How much usage do the
Tennis
tennis
courts.
courts get
At night.
at night?
Play, how much
How
play?
much play do they get?
None right now.
No
Because
lights.
They
There's
stopped it. They stopped it because there's no lights. But
How many
pre-
times do you use the tennis court?
I'm not a tennis player.
Okay.
I use a hockey court a lot. I'm a hockey player. But not right now. They stopped the night program because the lighting is so bad.
The existing lighting system has passed its useful life, and there's some timber poles, timber cross arms that are chained, and I think we need to make, and that was our recommendation, we need to make a decision. If we're going to light them, we need to replace those fixtures and those poles to this system or something like this that's a safer, more reliable system, or decide not to light the courts. But we need to do something with the existing light system that's there now.
Do you have any idea as to the cost to repair what's there?
The issue, the main issue that we have with what's there is the poles themselves.
Correct.
The timber poles and the cross arms. So to repair them is essentially to replace them, and the replacement would be the Musco system that we're proposing.
The Musco system does have its advantages. Like Johnny said, he can get very detailed reports. The lights
I can't hear you.
I said the Musco's light system has its advantages. Like Johnny was saying, we can get very detailed reports. The lights can be turned on and off remotely. It gives us a lot more leeway to manage the cost of lighting, which can be expensive for a municipality. Now, it's really the one-time cost of the lights, which I guess are your concern because you're wondering how useful these lights are, but there's a need in the community for them. And how long do the lights normally last, Ed, or are they after you do the initial capital investment?
The bulbs themselves have a warranty for the 5 years. The poles are, much longer than a 5-year warranty. I think in the neighborhood of a 20 to 30-year warranty on the poles. The fixtures themselves, I want to say a 5-year minimum. We haven't, on our systems, it's very rare that we have to replace the fixtures within the first 5 years.
And the system's proven itself amply on the other fields.
That's our feeling, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
No.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2014-129, award a contract for engineering consultants for the reconstruction of Roosevelt Boulevard, and this is a New Jersey DOT municipal aid fiscal year 2014 project. And this will be awarded to Endicott Engineering based on their low bid of $15,300. We have a motion second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing
Is
none, can
this
we have
the,
roll-
is this the Roosevelt project that state is paying for?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you,
This is a
Ed.
great-
You're an amazing ventriloquist.
Well, this is why it's called a municipal aid project.
And the scope of work is from Heald Circle to Sheridan Boulevard. It's that block.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is Resolution 2014-130, award of contract for engineering consultants for the drainage improvements to 10th Street North and East Evans Boulevard. And this is awarded to Endicott Engineering based on their low bid of $6,500. A motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Ed, is this, are they using information and part of the design that you've already created? or concept for that project?
Actually, no, this is in response to some drainage problems that we're having actually at 10th Street North and Beach Avenue. We did a bit of investigation and we found one section of pipe on 10th Street, about a 30-foot length of pipe that is higher than it should be. So in essence, you have the upstream pipe coming down, carrying the stormwater, and it actually has to jump up for this 30-foot length until it discharges into the Evans Boulevard system. We think that's slowing down. Obviously, that is slowing down the drainage. We believe that, or all indications are that it's where it's at because of a conflict with the water main in Evans Boulevard. So this project, once designed, I anticipate will be a water main offset and then the relaying or installation of this 30-foot of pipe at the proper invert to help maximize drainage on 10th Street.
Good. I didn't know there had been a number of complaints in that area, so hopefully this will take care of it.
It will definitely improve the situation. Whether it will take care of that, remember that Evans Boulevard drainage system takes an awfully large area that contributes and runs through that pipe. So it carries flow from Roosevelt Boulevard all the way to 12th Street North, from the ocean back to the golf course. It carries on down Sheridan Place to Kirkwood. So it's a large drainage area, and in essence, that is our issue with any of the drainage complaints in that area. This is a problem, what we're doing today, and we will make it better. But really, the main issue is that there's such a large volume of water running through that area. And we're hoping to correct that in our NJEIT project and try to lessen the watershed that flows this way.
You think the pump station will make a difference there?
I do.
Okay.
All right, any other comments on? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunter?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2014-131, authorizing the city to amend the contract with the county to modify the scope of work for the improvement to Brigantine Boulevard. Have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, essentially, this resolution is going to split the project in two, which it has anyway, but this is going to memorialize that.
In essence, yes. The original agreement had expired, so really this comes about because the original agreement expired and the county needs that to be renewed. And in doing that, the county said, well, since we're renewing this, let's more clearly define the work that has been done so far and what is remaining. So overall, the total project doesn't change. It just clearly defines what we have done so far, which is, as we all know, the triangle improvements up to 32nd Street, including drainage improvements, and allows for then the continued study towards the design of improvements at the Lighthouse Circle.
And it is,
Time frame for that, Ed?
Actually, I think it's within 2 years.
And from the amount that they have committed to $1,043,435, how much of that has not been used? If you know the answer.
How much is left on phase two?
I want to say in the neighborhood, actually I don't have that number, but between 200,000, maybe 200 to 250, something like that.
$246,380.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
That cuts into your.
Want to explain that, Brett?
Give us a breakdown.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunter?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, I'm on the right one here. Resolution 2014-131, supporting a resolution for the New Jersey Turnpike Authority to establish a full interchange, which would be exit 40 on the Garden State Parkway, and which is Route 30. We have a motion, second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this was asked for support by, in particular, Galloway Township, but it impacts all of the communities to have a full interchange on Route 30. As you know, at the present time from Route 30, you can't go south, and anyone coming south can't get off on Route 30 directly. They have to go to the next rest stop, I guess, and turn around and come back. So I think this would help our businesses and help people who are traveling on Route 30 to get to Brigantine in a more expedient manner, and also would do a lot for the businesses along that corridor in Galloway Township and Napseekin, so there are surrounding communities that have asked for our support as well.
My,
Yes.
my question on this is, and I know only what I'm seeing in the resolution. It appears that the Turnpike Authority, speaking for the Parkway, owning the Parkway, apparently conducted a feasibility study in April of this year, and their feasibility study somehow concluded against doing the interchange, the full interchange there. And again, just from what I'm reading here, the conclusion of the feasibility study by the Turnpike Authority seemed to be that a full interchange would damage development of business in that area to the west of the Parkway between, I guess, Route 30 and Jimmy Leeds. The picture, you know, where Jimmy Leeds comes in just past, I think, Pomona Road, or...
Right. The Galloway Township Council, Mayor and Council have asked for our support on this, so...
No, I understand that. No.
I think that what they also said too was that, according to them, they didn't think that it was going to, the Turnpike Authority didn't think it would enhance anything along the White Horse Pike, but the township challenges that.
So our support for this, I think it reads, would be that we are asking, we're joining them, Galloway, and asking that the Turnpike Authority reconsider the conclusions of its feasibility study, and that the Turnpike Authority should fund a grant for the municipalities affected, which I'll assume means Galloway and Egg Harbor, to conduct their own independent, in-depth feasibility study. Philosophically, I don't have a problem with that, except that we don't know any more than what we've been told in this resolution as to the conclusions of the feasibility study and whether they were valid or questionable. I mean, with that, I don't mind showing support for a fellow municipality. I just don't know, you know, where are the merits of this argument?
I did a little bit of research on this because I wanted to find out how it was going to benefit Brigantine, and I understand it a little more clearly now. And the project that's going on the Parkway right now from 41 to 44, the rest stop there, they're building a state trooper barracks, and that's going to block traffic or any vehicles to get off at that rest stop and then exit onto Jimmy Leeds Road. This is my understanding. So the big thing behind this and how it would benefit Brigantine is, number one, another evacuation route. If you're exiting Route 30, that's just another evacuation route. People don't have to all go west on Route 30. If there was an interchange, you could go south on the Parkway, and that would be a safer route. Another route for evacuation. And another public safety purpose would be for the emergency vehicles going to the hospital. And if they do block that, then that might make it difficult for people to get to the hospital. If there's a exit on Route 40 coming from the Parkway south, they could exit 40. Exit 40. Yeah. No, it's confusing because it's Route 30 and it's exit 40. You would get off on Route 30, heading north on the Parkway. There would be an exit interchange there, and you could go down the White Horse Pike or Route 30 and turn onto Chris Gaup Road to get to the hospital. So, I mean, from our perspective and how it will affect Brigantine, it's another evacuation route, which is a positive. It serves a public safety purpose for emergency vehicles getting to the hospital. And the only thing I'm opposed to here is that I'm afraid of a toll. I don't want to see a toll there. So everything in here, I don't mind them asking for another study. I'm all for the extra evacuation route and the public safety for vehicles. I just don't support a toll. So if there's any way we can support this resolution and say that we do not support a toll, because the last thing we need is someone getting off that parkway and having to pay a toll to come out the White Horse Pike to Brigantine or to the casinos.
Councilwoman, thank you. You have opened my eyes as to the merits of this, and don't be afraid, there will be a toll.
No, I doubt it.
So, once again, this is something that you may have read the newspaper article the city of Absecon supports, Galloway Township supports. They're asking for us as a surrounding community to support it. It is a matter of convenience for our residents and visitors. So, if this council is of mind to support it, we can vote on it now.
Fred, can we support it, but could I go on the record of stating I support it, but I don't support a new toll at that interchange?
I don't think it'll make a
you can say
heck of a
that.
lot of difference to anybody, but you can say that if you want.
Well, I don't want to support it if there's going to be a toll, and we wouldn't know
Well,
that.
Lisa, it's really to support a new feasibility
Right.
study. And Galloway Township was very kind to us. They allowed us to use their fire truck. And I think it's a good way to reciprocate and thank them for their support. But it's only so they can get money to do their own feasibility study.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palillo?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we have Resolution 2014-132, award of contract for waterworks material. And this is, just make sure I have the right waterworks material here. This is for HD Supply of Williamstown, based on their bid of $326,889.50. Have a motion second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, what are you buying, Johnny, with
This order,
$300,000?
This is the material that we use for the water departments, the meters, the meter boxes. It's not that we're going out and buying the 300,000, it's as needed.
So it's an up to amount. Very good. Do we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palillo?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next, we have the Resolution 2014-133, award of contract for sodium hypochlorite solution. And this goes to Buckman's, Inc., based on their low bid of $1.75 a gallon. Have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palillo?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2014-134 is award of contract for vertical transportation equipment, otherwise known as an elevator. And this goes to Tech Elevator, based on their low bid of $38,601. And this is for the repair of the elevator at the Brigantine Boat House, Brigantine Rowing Club. Have a motion second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a time frame on this repair? As you know, we have the adaptive